players are going down left and right.
It's going to be like this probably throughout the course of this year.
We just got to keep rolling with the punches.
Kind of had flashbacks of being back in college. It's a really cool feeling.
Boogie Cousins gets a basket courtesy of Mr. Wall.
People will have to make a lot of decisions when we run pick and roll.
That's a brother for life, so I'm extremely excited to be on the floor. This year is all about being the best player in the league.
Down the lane for a slam. Oh, yeah.
Simmons.
Black History Month is all 12 months from it. You know, we celebrate Black excellence every single day of the year.
You know, because there's certain things that our elders went through that we've never experienced. You got to keep teaching one another and understand that how in the world can you know where you're going if you don't know the past and the history?
You'll have to see it. I feel like I haven't said this on the show yet, so happy Black History Month. We got the Rockets versus the 76ers. That's at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. And to talk ESPN to talk about that game, we're going to welcome in our good sis, Ros Gold-Onwude. And Ros, I'm going to start on the 76ers side. Ben Simmons made headlines late last week because he said, I feel like I'm the best defender in the NBA. He made the NBA All-Defensive Team last season, and he was 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. What do you think? Is he due for that award?
I think he needs to be at the top of the list in this conversation. And I'm really glad to see that Ben Simmons spoke up and made this really bold kind of statement, because what it's going to do is bring attention to his game and eyes to it. And you need that, because typically, guys, with the Defensive Player of the Year award, the flashy, eye-catching stats are who's leading the league in blocks, who's leading the league in rebounds. But to truly appreciate the full impact of all that Ben Simmons' game can do, you've really got to watch it to understand how his effort might change the momentum of a game, or how his length and his size and his speed all combine to help him with versatility, so that in one game you may see him lock up possessions in a row against Damian Lillard. And then in another game, Joel Embiid is out. Well, cool. Ben Simmons is matched up against Rudy Gobert. You see that versatility. And if you are somebody who needs stats, you know, Ben Simmons is top 5 in the league in steals. He's absolutely active getting deflections, and he needs to be at the top of these conversations for Defensive Player of the Year. But you got to watch to see it.
Now, his point guard counterpart in John Wall has been on a revenge tour of sorts. We saw him Monday night put up 29 despite the 12-point loss. But still, he believes that the Rockets have a chance at the postseason. So what do you believe Houston's chances are for getting to the dance at the end of this?
Look, I'm never just going to say never. Also because the season is very young, and this Rockets team has already overcome a lot. But I don't at this moment see them making the playoffs. Perhaps they're just not good enough, but also because the teams ahead of them are just better positioned, I feel, to make a playoff push. You know, you look at the Rockets right now, they're 13th in the West. They've lost 6 games in a row, all to teams that are sub 500, you know, and they've been banged up. You know, they've been without Christian Wood, they've been without Victor Oladipo, but you look at the West, you know, there have been other teams. Look at the Trailblazers that have still been able to come up with wins even without their full roster. And don't forget, the Rockets may have more changes coming, may be active before the trade deadline, further shaking up an already tumultuous season for them. Look, coming out of the All-Star break, I see the Warriors, the Mavs, the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, all of them making strong pushes for the playoffs, further boxing out the Rockets.
On the flip side of that, Ros, unless something catastrophic happens with the Sixers, they are sitting comfortably atop the East, and a lot of credit, most of the credit, all of the credit going to the synergy now of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. We're talking about him defensively. Now we're flip side talking about him offensively. Everybody for the longest time was like, they can't coexist. They can't coexist. I want to give a lot of credit to Doc Rivers, but the synergy is finally there. Is this the ceiling that we've finally seen from them? They've been together now full-time 4 seasons.
It's definitely not the ceiling. But I'll also say I do see the synergy there. I think they're still growing together. It's not done yet. But this is the best iteration so far. And I think it starts with the fact that both Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are having stellar individual seasons. And then it also is coming together and working because of the cast around them. And, you know, look at the top. I think Doc Rivers has had a tremendous impact on this team mentally as well. And you look at how he might have impacted a player like Tobias Harris, who has never looked more comfortable, confident, aggressive than he has this season as a 76er. You know, you look at this team and they've added some answers to how can you create spacing for Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to play together. Well, you know, you got Seth Curry, you got Danny Green, whether they're hitting a three or not, they're creating spacing. Now, the main key, though, is that this 76er team continue to improve over the course of the season. So over this last road trip where they lost 3 of 4, they learned they need more production out of their bench. Their bench just had come up short for them. They also are not realizing their full defensive potential. This 76ers roster could be so good on defense. They have so many individual players who have a lot of defensive potential. And then look, it is the modern NBA. And as a team, you know, they could be more powerful from the three-point line.
So, Ros, we found out that Ben Simmons is actually out for the matchup tonight. What do you think that means for the 76ers?
Well, I think that means that, you know, you're going to have to get more production creating for each other. And one of the issues with that second unit actually was the ball movement, you know, and this is going to further exacerbate that problem, moving the ball, playing with pace, and creating shots for each other. One of the things that makes Ben Simmons so valuable is not just the points he's putting up, but how he creates pace off of a rebound and how he makes offense easier for everyone else around him.
I want to go back to the Rockets really fast because you mentioned earlier how Victor Oladipo has been banged up for the Rockets. He obviously got to Houston in January, and the trade deadline, I believe, is about 5 weeks away now. So do you feel like Oladipo is going to be in a Rockets jersey at the end of all of this?
That's an interesting question, and I see Victor Oladipo being a great asset on a team that is much closer to being a contender than the Rockets are currently. And whether the Rockets want to say this out loud or not, they're in a rebuild. You know, they're accumulating draft picks, and their timeline is just simply not for right now. It's for way further in the future. And you look at Victor Oladipo, who's on an expiring contract, who has been rumored to have other destinations that he favors. He's going to be a hot commodity in this free agency class, which the top players of this free agency class, many of them have already committed to extensions before this season. So I would imagine that the Rockets try to get as much as they can before the trade deadline.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.